Welcome to another episode of Two Bald Guys, brought to you by the Wisconsin Institute for Public Policy and Service. My name is Dave Anderson. I'm a senior policy fellow at the Wisconsin Institute for Public Policy and Service, otherwise known as WIPS.
Hi, Dave. I'm Eric Giordano, the Executive Director of WIPS. Really glad to be with you today. And Dave, just as a reminder, can you tell everyone just a little bit about WIPS?
Absolutely. WIPS is a unit of the University of Wisconsin system. It's really a great organization with a lot of great people associated with it, working on a great mission. And that mission includes educating and engaging citizens, developing future leaders, and helping communities address issues that they care about. It doesn't get any better than that, Eric.
Wow, checks in the mail, Dave. Thanks. I see that you're sort of wearing a blue shirt today. I'm a little confused.
Well, just to remind anybody who was with us last week that the notion of two bald guys came out of the many meetings that we've attended across the state of Wisconsin. Of course, we share the same hairline, and oftentimes we would wear the same kind of clothes. And I see we've done that today as well. So you must have gotten the memo about what to wear today.
I thought the rule was if I told you what color I was wearing, you would be wearing a different color. So thank you so much for that.
There you go.
Well, actually, it's interesting, Dave, because my version of why we do Two Bald Guys is a little different. I thought we were primarily doing this to share a massive planet-sized intellect with all of the masses, along with a few maybe really bad hair jokes and puns. Speaking of which, did you know that being this bald, there's a tremendous amount of pressure in buying my next bottle of shampoo, because basically I realize it's going to be a lifetime supply. So thank you, Julia Sharp, for that one, by the way. By the way, if you have a story or idea or a hair-splitting joke or pun for us, please send it to info@wips.org. That's WIPPS.org. Now we'd like to take a moment to introduce our producer and official representative of an attractive younger demographic, Luke Rudolph, who happens to be also our only confirmed viewer. Hi, Luke.
Oh, hey, guys.
Really?
Combing his hair. Hey, wait a minute, Eric. I think you're really understating the viewership that our episode had last week. We were actually a huge success last week. We literally doubled our viewership with a second confirmed viewer. We were very excited about that, unless that person named Gail was actually a Russian hacker. But you know what? Russian hacker or not, or if you just stumbled across our show today, we welcome you, and let us know that you're here by posting a little message on our Facebook feed.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate you reminding me of that. And I actually did go on Facebook and I saw some posts by someone named Gail. So Gail, if you're a Russian hack, we are sure glad you're watching. So now it's time for our hair-raising story of the week. Luke.
All right, this story comes to us out of North Carolina, where a miniature donkey named Mambo is getting some online love where a farm is getting into the idea of having animals spice up virtual meetings during the coronavirus. Peace and Peas Farms will rent Mambo, the 8-year-old miniature donkey, and his friends to crash company conference calls on Zoom and WebEx. So if that's something you guys are interested, maybe think about that.
Maybe if it were an elephant, I could buy into that.
Oh, man, really? Okay, Dave, do I have to remind you that not only is our show PG, it's also nonpartisan? And by the way, why do you assume that the donkey isn't a Republican? I mean, how do you know? I mean, really? So anyway, thank you, Luke. I thought, Luke, I figured you were going to go with an animal story, but yeah, don't stereotype. I figured that Luke was going to go with the animal story. I thought he was going to go with that killer hornet story, but that's good, Luke. Thank you. All right. Well, actually, wow, time's flying, and we're excited to present our 3 guests today. And you might remember that last week we ran out of time for our mystery guest, and so we're definitely going to go a little longer today to make room for our mystery guest plus our 2 featured guests. So without further ado, we're really excited to introduce our mystery guest. Luke, can you bring in the mystery guest?
Oh, it looks like he may have had to go on a bathroom break, so we might have to. We'll come back to him. We'll come back to him.
Okay. All right. Well, then I guess, Dave, why don't you introduce our featured guests?
That sounds good. We're very excited today to have with us Kim Butler, who is the chair of Wisconsin's 7th Congressional District Democratic Party, and Jim Miller, the chair of the Republican Party of the 7th Congressional District. So we're going to visit with them today a little bit about the upcoming special election for Congress in the 7th Congressional District of Wisconsin. So Kim and Jim, welcome to the show, and we're glad to have you with us.
Hi, thank you. It's
Why
good
don't
to be
we,
here.
Thanks for the
why
invitation.
don't we
My
kick off with
welcome.
why don't we
Love
why don't we
technology.
kick off with a question on why don't we kick off with a question on how unusual it must be in the environment that we're in today with COVID-19 to be running a campaign for Congress for both of the candidates as well as for the parties who support them. Kim, let's start with you. Why? What do you think about this? The challenges involved with running a campaign with these obstacles in place?
Well, it's a big challenge. I don't envy Trisha. She's done a great job of moving to basically a virtual campaign. She's done online fundraisers with Congressman Dave Obey, former Lieutenant Governor Barbara Lawton, Ada Deer, and other supporters. She's had listening sessions across the district with different counties, and has been, a big presence on social media, sending out lots of emails, done tons of radio and television and newspaper interviews. For the party, the Democratic Party of Wisconsin moved to a virtual mode March 12th. I think I had one of the last meetings when we were doing delegate training on March 12th. And from then on, all the organization and all the county chairs moved to Zoom meetings and email. The DPW has been sending out letters to voters to encourage them to vote absentee. And we've been doing postcard campaigns and texting and phone banking and pretty much anything we can think of to try and engage voters and get them to understand that there's an election and this is our candidate. So it's been an interesting conversion and a lot of work, I think, on the part of the candidates.
Jim, any thoughts from your perspective?
Yeah, not that we've always had an emphasis on digital, but I think it's become more important this election than any other to be able to reach those voters. It's always been important, I think, particularly because we're a rural district. There's a lot of space between a lot of homes. So unlike urban areas, it's difficult to do door knocking and lit drops sometimes in some of these rural counties. So digital has taken a big precedence. What's gone away is essentially the in-person contact. You can't go to the Rotary Club. You can't go to the Veterans Group. You can't go to the Chamber of Commerce banquet. So those have all gone away. Going forward throughout the summer, I think it's going to be more of a challenge, particularly for local candidates down ballot, because of the dairy breakfasts, which are a huge thing in June. Those are not going to happen. A lot of the parades are being canceled. Those are great opportunities for exposure for down ballot candidates. And so it's going to make it more challenging throughout the summer. For Tom Tiffany's sake, I think he has a benefit in that he had a very heavily contested primary before the whole COVID thing hit. Nearly $1 million was spent between him and his challenger. So he was out there on digital. He was out there hitting a lot of events, probably more so than on the Democrat side. They did have a primary as well, but it wasn't nearly as high amount of dollars spent as on the Republican side. So I think that is an advantage to Tom. The timing, ironically, nobody likes primaries, but I think it might have been a blessing for him. And then also, Tom has an established group in his Senate district as well of constituents and has been around the district. So to that regard, even though he can't get to the Rotary meetings now and the Chamber of Commerce meetings now, he's been able to do that throughout his tenure in the state legislature. So that's been helpful.
So we're kind of curious about, we know that Tom's got a full-time job as a legislator. We know that Tricia has a full-time job as a lawyer, as a judge. I mean, how do your candidates balance the needs of the campaign with everything else that's going on in their lives? And Jim, maybe we'll start with you this time.
Yeah, and it's definitely a challenge. I mean, even if no matter what you do in public service, I mean, I serve on probably 6 or 7 boards. I lost track, plus a full-time job as well. But running for Congress isn't for everybody. It's a challenge. There's 435 members of Congress, and all those seats are heavily contested. When this seat became open, personally, as district chair, I received at least a dozen calls of people that thought they could step up and do the job, and we grilled them vigorously. What makes you different? What do you think you're up to the task? And most people are not up to the task of running for Congress because it's so involving. You do have to put your private life on hold to some extent. When Congressman Duffy first ran in 2010, he had 5 kids and he was a DA of Ashland County. By the time he got done, he had 9 kids, and it was trying to make that balance. And with his last child, of course, the one that was recently born with a birth defect in its heart, he had to finally make the decision that it was just too much for him to handle that balance. So it's incredibly challenging. It's not for everybody. They work long hours. People think that Congress is being a congressman is an easy job. It is not. They're up at 5 a.m. and they go to bed at midnight and every day plowing through just to try to make 25 hours in a 24-hour day.
Yeah, it's a little like being a host of 2 bald guys. No, I'm kidding.
Exactly.
Tricia, I'm sorry, not Tricia, Kim. What about Tricia?
Well, she's kind of a superwoman. She's very driven, and I knew that from the start, and I had heard that from many people who know her from her activities around the district. But she's balancing, she's homeschooling her 9-year-old as a single mom. She's the sole breadwinner, so she continues to teach law school in 3 different places, which she's always done remotely. I don't know that her justice work with the Ho-Chunk Supreme Court is doing, if they're actually that busy right now, but she is, as president of the Wausau School Board, has been shepherding their transition to virtual learning as a district, to making sure that the kids' students' nutritional needs were being met. And then obviously campaigning across a 26 county district, which is huge. And, I know she put a lot of miles on her car. One of the previous candidates told me that they put 50,000 miles on their car running for office. So Tricia was all over the district beforehand. But I don't know how she balances being a mom, being a breadwinner, and being a candidate, but she's always been driven. She's first generation college student, went to Madison and graduated with 4 majors, and then got herself into UCLA Law School, which is one of the top, I think, 20 law schools in the country. And so she sets her mind to something and works really hard to get it. And that's what she's doing right now.
Kim, thanks for reminding our viewers that that this district is 26 counties. When you think about it, that's over a third of the number of counties in the state of Wisconsin, and geographically, it's probably over a third of the entire state. So it is a challenging district. Hey, what do you think voter turnout's going to be next week on May 12th? And do you think we're going to see some of the same issues we saw with the April spring election, where people were kind of reticent to get out to the polls to vote, or are a lot of people voting absentee? What's your take on all of that, Kim?
For me, the Democratic Party's been pushing absentee voting since before the April 7th election. We just think it's the safest thing for people to do. And so we've sent out letters to people, postcards, various countywide or county party initiatives to send postcards and phone calls, and lots of social media about absentee voting. I think I read today that 110,000 absentee ballots have been requested for the election, and right now we're pushing getting people to return them. Of course, some people simply don't trust mail-in voting, and they'll be going to the polls. And I know that our poll workers have done a fantastic job with trying to keep everybody safe and socially distant and using lots of hand sanitizer. And so those people who want to go to the polls can go on Tuesday, but we've been encouraging people to do absentee ballots and now to return them probably directly to their clerk or their municipality.
Jim?
Yeah, I think some of the issues and challenges and tactics are the same, whether you're a Democrat candidate or Republican. We're doing the absentee ballot chase, we're doing the calls, the phone banking, everything to that nature. I'm not really sure. I can't really give a prediction on turnout. It's the only race on the ballot, of course, so there's no top ticket, unlike the November race or another statewide race. In the primary for this race, it was a month or so ago. I can't remember. I lost track of the date on it. I do know that the Republican candidates basically got double the vote of the Democrat primary, but I don't know if that's going to necessarily be an indication of turnout. We were anticipating early on that President Trump might come in, because Wisconsin is so important for the national implications, that President Trump might come into central Wisconsin and do an event, a get out the vote event, and actually Vice President Pence had an event scheduled that was canceled right at the start of the COVID outbreak. So that certainly could have driven participation through conservative voters. This race, I don't think, has gotten a lot of national attention, really. I mean, there's been some specials early on that are all over the national news, and this one's kind of flown under the radar, so to speak. So, we might get 30-35%. I can't give you a number, but either way, I know both sides are really doing what they can to make sure that their voters get out to the polls.
Okay, thank you. Do we have time for one more question? Okay, if so, it seems like the candidates are pretty much on opposite sides on a lot of issues, a lot of issues that they were talking about in the recent debates, and really virtually all the issues. And if you look at some of the voting trends in the state, I mean, we seem like really divided. And so I guess the question is our district really that philosophically divided, in your opinion? Jim, why don't we start with you?
Unfortunately, yes. I think there's a lot of division, and I appreciate the work that WHIPS is doing, being nonpartisan. But I think a lot of it, really comes down to confirmation biases in people and where they gather their news, and it channels people into getting information that confirms their biases and divisions. I think if you strip that away and you sat people down, and once they got over their 5 minutes of talking points of what they saw on MSNBC or Fox News, you probably find some commonality in there. But voters are constantly being bombarded by media. Even their news feeds are tailored not only by their own choice, but by algorithms for them to get the information that they tend to either agree with or they strongly disagree with. So that really builds into their decision making, unfortunately. But yeah, I think there are fundamental differences in the party, no doubt about it. I think there's a clear contrast between Tom and Tricia as well, and voters are going to have to make that decision. So.
Thank you, Tricia. I mean, gosh, Kim, if I call you Tricia one more time, I guess you could just run for office.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, my mom's name is Patricia.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
When I talk to voters, I always like to say that I think fundamentally we all want the same things. We all want a safe house. We want to be able to provide for our families with a decent paying job. We want our kids to get a good education. We want to live in a healthy, safe environment and have accessible healthcare that we can afford. So on those basic issues, I don't think that we're as divided as people want to push us out to be. Also, Tricia and some Republican ads has been painted as a radical liberal, which she really isn't. I think of her as more of a centrist Democrat, and she's not, going to be the fifth member of the squad or things like that. I think there's probably a lot of things that they do agree on deep down. Yeah, there are differences. Senator Tiffany's attitudes towards the environment are definitely very different from Tricia Zunker's, and they, I believe, certainly have different opinions about President Trump's leadership. But, I think voters are very excited about the prospect of a change with Tricia, and to get real representation from someone who's going to really work hard to represent everyone in the district, including the people that don't vote for her, including the people that disagree with her, to offer, top-notch constituent services and really bring the will of the people of this district to DC.
Thank you. Luke, do we have any other questions?
Not so far.
Okay, great. All right. Well, Dave, anything else you want to bring up?
I don't have anything at the moment.
Well, we really want to say thank you both to Kim and Jim. Just don't go off and do your own show, because this is our idea, okay? So,
Sure.
because Kim and Jim would make a nice.
Yeah.
We've got hair.
Yeah, right, exactly. It wouldn't work. So anyway, not to be discouraging. Well, Dave, as they say, all good things must come to an end. And I know. Luke, we really need a rim shot sound, okay? Can you please work on that for all of our incredible puns? But thank you all for joining. And remember to find us on Facebook or on our website, whips.org, or you're certainly welcome to email us with your questions or program suggestions at info@whips.org.
Hey, Eric, what about our mystery guest?
Well, I guess this is a little embarrassing because we're out of time. Luke, if we promise that we will reveal our mystery guests next week, do you think that they'll come back?
I'll try to smooth some things over, but I think we can get them. I think we can get them for next week.
All right. So that's our promise. We'll get him back on. I apologize once again. Dave, why don't you tell us about our other featured guest for next week?
Absolutely. So next week, our program is entitled, Would Alexander Hamilton Give Away His Shot in the COVID-19 Era? And we're going to feature another one of our WHIPS Senior Policy Fellows, Paul Carver, who worked on Capitol Hill for nearly 30 years. And I think will have an interesting perspective to offer. And Eric, I really want to take this opportunity to thank you for being such a great co-host for the show. This is our second week, and I think we're off to a really good start. I came up with this line, or I heard this line the last time I went in to get my hair done, which was quite a while ago. Now I think I need to get a touch up here. But this goes exactly to the kind of relationship we have on this show. I just want to say you are the highlight to my contour. So thank you very much for being such a great co-host.
Well, right back at you. And I think it's fair to say we've shaved the day again. So thanks. Good to see you. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.